Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are absolutely going to challenge everything you thought you knew about traditional root cause corrective action, or RCCA. Look, if you've ever felt completely frustrated by 5 whys or fishbone diagram investigations that just seem to spin around in circles, unfairly blame the nearest worker, and ultimately lead to absolutely nowhere, well, you are in the exact right place. Okay, let's dive into this with a visceral, real-world case study. Imagine a massive industrial coating lot that just failed inspection twice. In a traditional investigation, the team took the easy way out. They simply blamed the painter. They assumed, he just wasn't paying attention. The corrective action? Retrain the staff. But guess what? 9 weeks later, the exact same failure happened with a completely different painter. Now, contrast that with the TSI approach. Instead of pointing fingers at a person, investigators checked the physical records at the exact point of work. And what did they find? An obsolete Revision B specification sitting right there at the paint booth instead of the current Revision C. By fixing the document control process, they stopped the failure permanently. That case perfectly highlights exactly why the TSI process is vastly superior to the classic 5 whys or fishbone diagrams when you're performing RCCA. Those legacy methods, they have systemic fatal flaws. First off, they lack a defined stopping rule. You literally just keep asking why until you give up or run out of time. Second, they require absolutely no physical evidence. And third, and this is a big one, under the intense time pressure of a shop floor, they almost always terminate in subjective adjectives about people. We're talking words like complacent, rushed, or inattentive. And that just results in root causes that are completely unfixable and unauditable. You simply cannot fix human behavior with a quality form. It doesn't work. So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. Enter the TSI process. 2. Tools, skills, and information. 3. Banning human error. And 4. Forward and backward application. All right, let's kick things off with section 1. Enter the TSI process. So, what is it? The TSI process is a highly structured method for determining whether work could have actually been performed correctly at the exact moment it was performed. It does this by testing 3 specific conditions at the point of execution: tools, skills, and information. The vital takeaway for us here is that it zeroes in on the exact physical location and the exact moment the work occurred, rather than relying on some conference room brainstorming session like the fishbone diagram so often does. And this brilliantly illustrates that this methodology isn't just a loose suggestion. It is a strict standard created and governed by A3 Assurance. This is a definitive, verifiable methodology. It's not some casual checklist you can just modify on the fly. And it is certainly not an open-ended guessing game. TSI requires hard, physical evidence to back up any claims made about a failure. Moving right along to section 2, tools, skills, and information. Let's break these down. The very first gate is tools, or T. We have to ask, did the work event have every instrument required? Was it correct for the task, functional, and within calibration at the exact point of execution? Now, the artifact here cannot just be a simple yes based on an assumption or a hunch. It must be a specific instrument identifier, like a serial number, and a calibration date drawn straight from the calibration register. Next up is the skills gate, or S. Was the individual explicitly qualified with a current documented certification? Now listen, there's a very common trap to avoid here. You cannot just check department-level certification. Saying, oh, the shop is a certified fabricator is not an acceptable answer. You must verify the individual's specific qualification record by their actual name and certificate number right at the moment the work happened. And the third gate is information, or I. Which document revision was physically present at the execution point? And was it the current controlled revision? This gate is anchored directly to your document register and its crucial distribution record. You have to prove that the right piece of paper actually made it into the worker's hands out there on the shop floor. Actually, I want you to pause for a second and really think about this. Out of tools, skills, and information, why do you think the information gate actually finds the most failures during shop floor investigations? Any guesses? Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the answer reveals a fascinating reality of the shop floor. Superseded drawings look exactly like current ones. Think about it. Tools and skills failures are highly visible, right? A missing tension gauge or an expired badge gets noticed pretty quickly. But an information gap happens precisely when an operator is doing everything perfectly right. They're literally just reading the wrong piece of paper. This is exactly what those endless 5 whys sessions usually miss because they're way too busy interrogating the worker's state of mind instead of looking at the facts. Which brings us to Section 3, banning human error. This right here is where TSI completely leaves the fishbone diagram in the dust. We absolutely have to separate unacceptable root causes from acceptable ones. Unacceptable causes look like human error, inattention to detail, or rushed. Let's be real, those are just adjectives. They prove nothing and they fix nothing. Acceptable artifact-based root causes, on the other hand, look like gauge 04 calibration lapsed on March 12th, or revision B was in use instead of revision C. This proves definitively that human behavior is not a root cause. Only physical checkable artifacts are allowed to be considered. To strictly enforce this, the TSI process lays down some mandatory rules. Your root cause statement must name at least one artifact identifier. It must state a fact checkable by a third party who wasn't even in the room. It must reference the governing quality system element. And it must contain absolutely zero behavior language, none. Ultimately, this method is only as honest as the registers, your calibration, qualification, and document registers, sitting right beneath it. And this brings us to a massive paradigm shift for a lot of folks. No gap is a mandatory valid outcome. If tools, skills, and information are all confirmed, guess what? The shop floor is cleared. The root cause must then escalate upstream to engineering, detailing, or maybe a material defect. Organizations must never, ever force a fake skills gap just to close out a form and blame a worker. Oh, and seeing pending on a form, that is merely a hold state. It is never a valid way to actually close out an investigation. Finally, let's look at Section 4, Forward and Backward Application. Forward application is your proactive 60-second run before the work even starts. Step 1, list the required tools, skills, and documents. Step 2, enter them as firm hold points on your plan. Step 3, confirm each gate before the task actually begins. And Step 4, stop work if any gate cannot be signed. Just think about a slip-critical bolted connection in construction. If you catch an uncalibrated tool at ground level using this forward run, it costs you, one signature and a quick phone call? But if you catch it up in the field after erection, that's going to cost a massive change order and a major schedule hit. This is the ultimate preventative measure. So the crucial point is the foundational rule when performing this check. Write the identifier, not a checkmark. A simple checkmark manufactures a false document trail. Because honestly, anyone can flick a pen without even looking. But writing down the exact serial number or the specific revision letter mathematically proves that the register was actually checked. But hey, what if a failure has already happened? That's when we use backward application. Step 1, record the exact date and time of the work event. Step 2, verify the gates by identifier against those registers we talked about. Step 3, assign exactly one gap type. There is a strict prohibition against splitting a gap type across multiple buckets, because writing corrective actions for multiple causes just creates a giant wish list that never actually closes out. And Step 4, authorize disposition of the nonconformance only after the assignment is definitively made. So we've covered exactly why the TSI process absolutely obliterates the subjective, blame-heavy trap of the 5 whys in the fishbone diagram. I want to end this explainer with a bold question for you to ask yourself the very next time you sit down to review an RCCA. Is your root cause actually fixable, or is it just an adjective? If you are tired of writing retrain the operator over and over, only to watch the exact same errors happen again, it is definitely time to embrace the hard evidence of the TSI process. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll see you in the next explainer.